So I had a half an hour. Now I think I have an hour, but I don't think I'll take all that time. We'll see how it goes, though. All right, first, I wanted to let y'all know we have a celebrity in our midst, someone that's been a good friend of mine for a long time. It's Miss Allen Williams. She is the Deputy Director of the Department of Defense Office of Small Business Program. So she's been a great advocate to DISA. Great advocate to DISA and a great proponent for the small business community writ large in the DoD, Army, Navy, Air Force, and the Fourth Estate. I think they're probably going to announce a little bit later on once I finish up, but I'm going to let folks know now. For the Meet the Seniors this afternoon, it's going to be in this room. What they plan to do is set up tables at the end of the aisles so people can kind of flow in, meet the senior, then flow back out the hallway, okay? So I'll probably make a few more announcements. I thought I would let you know. As soon as we take a break, no one will hear what the announcer's saying. So that's how the plan will work. And they'll let us know when we end at what time we're going to kick off the Meet the Seniors, given we're a little bit ahead of time today. Third, so I am real pleased with the attendance, and actually the attendance left in the room now. I think last time we were here in the Reagan building, by this time of the day, it was very few chairs that were occupied. We had a tremendous number of people that were out this morning. As promised in previous discussions that I had, the folks who don't attend the event will not be on the top of the list to attend for the next year. If there's a company that had 2 attendees, the company did not show up, someone else will get that slot next year, guaranteed. These slots are hard to come by, people fight for them, and it's disrespectful to the people who sign up and don't come or can't come. We just need to do a little bit better job management, so we will do that for the community in the succeeding years. And TBD on where the location will be for next year. I like it here in DC because it's centralized, the metro is close, the noise is overbearing. I don't know how the people in back can really go through it. So we'll figure out something for next year, maybe have it in a different room or something, or a different location. But DC is a place to have it. Baltimore is easier for some, but I think this is the best location to have the event. Fourth, I wanted to give given that Ms. Williams is here, I want to give a shout out to, we awarded our Encore 3 full and open suite to 20 contractors. One of those contractors was a small business, which is, I think, phenomenal for a small business to have won in that full and open suite. Not that I should be surprised, but I think it's a credit to the company. The company's name is Cubase. I'm not sure if they're here in the audience or not, but congratulations for that organization to compete very well and actually get one of those 20 slots given the, I think it was 72 proposals that were submitted. See, yeah? Why am I not surprised Ms. Williams would lead that chair? All right, so I guess I have the slide duty myself. All right. So when I went to bring my slides to the event today, I looked at my book and the slides were there. So this other slide deck was on my desk that was printed out in color. I thought, well, I don't need those. I have slides in my book that the staff made for me. These are the old slides, right? So they've been updated. So I look here a lot. I have to look down to make sure what I have. So some of this will be kind of off the cuff, my thoughts off the cuff. So if you've listened to a briefing that I've given where I was prepared and thought, that was awful, we're going to have some fun now. This is all off the top of my head. But so we're going to go into the posting of opportunities. So we have this forecast once a year, but it's really not enough to post the opportunities. While you hear a lot of dialogue today and have a lot of conversations, when you're gone after the one-day event, what you really look for is what those opportunities are. So what we decided to, committed to do, was to have that twice a year to submit on our website what the opportunities are going to be. All right, so our next one, we're gathering the data now. I expect before November is out to have the semi-annual update to our procurement opportunities posted on our website. And the next date is going to be in May of 18, and that gives you that 6-month interval of the opportunity. So we'll update what we have, all right, on the dates and take some things off that are awarded, and then we'll have new opportunities that come along. All right. So I had a question of use of DISA IDIQ contracts versus external agency GWACs. So how I tried to segregate these out was purposely in several tiers. So the first one is Encore 3 and the SETI. So they are DISA-awarded, multi-award IDIQ contracts. So they are the first contracts we will look towards for the opportunities. We're not going to award Encore, we're not going to award SETI, and not use the vehicle and put it on the shelf, right? Because those are evaluated by our agency for skill sets that our agency needs, and those are the first glance we give through our market research, okay? We were asked about what services go under Encore and what would go under SETI. So I can explain it best to you this way. Within the Encore contract, which is published, there are 20 task areas. Those are the task areas that we have within DISA that if we need to award a task order for that work, that's where we're going to go to as part of our market research and do a diligent research on the full and open suite and on the small business suite when that's awarded. For the SETI, so the Encore is commodity IT. The SETI is, think of it really as engineering services. If you look at the task orders they have and you look at the NAICS code used in the contract, it is for computer system design services. That has a definition in the SBA regulations, the definition we will use, and that's the work that will go under SETI. So the GSM ETI and all the other engineering work we've done to other smaller contracts, that is directly related to the SETI contract. Additionally, there's a large wedge in that contract for the Department of Defense to use it. Army particularly at one point had many questions about using the vehicle, so it has ceiling there that allows the entire department to use the contract. So they will not just be DISA or DISA core customers using the contract. There may be other parts of the department that have never used DISA that goes to that contract to do the ordering themselves, or we order the work for them on a task order through one of our contracting offices. All right, the next is for the circuit. So the principal contract that Mr. Shires wants to use for his long-haul circuits is the GNS, the Global Network Services, which is what we will use. Networks is the second formal contract vehicle we'll use. When that's not available to us, we'll use IQO, which is the inquiry quote order, I believe is the correct name. So those are kind of in the priority listed of how we'll use those vehicles to procure the circuit work for DISA. Okay, for the ComSatCom, so the GSA Complex Commercial Solutions 3, which is CS3, I believe that was just awarded if I'm correct. So that is the primary vehicle that we look towards. There was agreement between GSA and the Department of Defense to use that vehicle. It's about a 6-year-old agreement that we formed in partnership with GSA. So that is a primary vehicle we will use for our commercial satellite communications procurements. Second is the GSA schedules, and the schedule numbers are listed there. If you're in this business space, you know exactly what the schedules are, so I won't need to go into define those any further length today. And last is, what about these other external connect vehicles? Well, absolutely we do use them. What we buy is so broad, so complex, and so in-depth, we can't use just one vehicle continuously just because of the mission what we're buying, and then also the vendor space of what's available. So this is a listing of other vehicles we use, the schedules, the Alliant Small Business, the VETS, which I believe someone asked about today, NASA Soup we use extensively. It really gives us the best value for the dollar over a GSA vehicle, so we use those quite extensively. So we use them all, but this is kind of, I wanted to lay out for you because someone asked how we make the decision. Based on market research, we determine what vehicle from what market segment we're attempting to reach for the program manager's needs. So the review is done at the program level. When it's completed at the program level, it comes to the contracting officer for, I would say, more or less a sanity check of, does it make sense? Does it kind of cover the waterfront? And at that point, it also goes to Ms. Jones or Ms. Leonard or Errol Douglas, who take a look at it and check it if the small business kind of makes sense. As Sharon mentioned before, we did push hub zones very heavily. We awarded $30 million more in hub zone awards, so I think that's pretty heavily focused from my agency of how important the hub zone outreach has been and continues to be. So when it goes through all those different offices, so a contracting office, a small business office, and the program office, there's a corporate decision of what is the best vehicle to use. Okay, what I went through today briefly is how that decision is made within the government space. All right. So this is my own personal observations that I prepared for the forecast today. So an expanding contracts portfolio. So in FY17, we awarded $5.8 billion in contract obligations. So that's $400 million than any we've ever awarded in DISA's history. So in from year-to-year growth, $40 million. If I look back to FY13, which was my first year at DISA, at that point I was the Vice Director for Procurement, we've had a $1.2 billion increase. So while there's a lot of calamity with shrinking budgets or other parts of the department having less spend value, I have actually more spend value. A lot of that spend goes into category management and strategic sourcing, and it links into small business, how we use certain small business vehicles or don't use certain vehicles that don't give us opportunities for the small business outreach that we need to have in DISA. All right, next list is some of the activities we support, and some of this may be known to folks, some of it may not, so I just want to give a snapshot of who the players are. I think for all of these, we have an active planned contract that we'll go through in a moment. One I wanted to notice was the Defense Contract Management Agency. So they came to DISA about, I think maybe 6 months ago for some ecosystem support, for some data center support. At the same time, they asked our ability to award IT contracts, and not simple commodity hardware software product procurements rather, but complex IT services. Data centers, until they would transition into the ecosystem of DISA, they have tier 1 or certain help desk support. Complex, and if you're at a DCMA and you're buying more general office type of services or professional services, IT just isn't what you buy, and if you don't buy it day in and day out, there's a lot of things that you don't know of how to perform the best valued contract vehicle. So DCMA has asked for assistance for the more complex contract actions. Uniquely for that work set, it is going to be procured out of the DITCO and NCR. Up to now, all the external work for my organization has been out of DITCO, Scottsdale, Illinois. It is no longer the case. We have a great group of people at DITCO NCR, and so that DCMA mission, they're going to pick up there locally there at Fort Meade. So when you start seeing things come out and it says DISA and DCMA, this is why. And it's not their entire portfolio. It's parts that they consider complex, and they ask for assistance to be able to procure for them. All right? Okay. State of our procurement system. So I was in the media roundtable, and I had a question. We had that at lunch. I had a question about agile procurement, what I thought about agile procurement, and the belief that the contracting 1102, my career field, is the reason why we have this kind of archaic system that we have. And I offer very candidly that I don't accept the premise that the 1102 community is a community that doesn't want to see change. There is a Section 809 panel. I think if we're going to change procurement in the next 2 or 3 years, the Section 809 panel led by Dee Lee, it will change it or it will not be changed before I retire, and I got a long time to go. So the key word in that phrase is, it's our system. Doug Packard did not create but one law, and I'll tell you later if you want to know what law it was. I didn't create the law, all right? DISA implements the laws of the Congress and how they're put in place by the Department of Defense. We make regulations that try our best to make the process as streamlined as we can, but we don't make the laws. But I can tell you, every protest that is filed, and oops, there's an oops from a human being, I have another DNF to do to guard against that when it comes up to GO again. And this is the DISA, this is federal government wide. Congress petitioned to have a separate policy done, let's say it's for service contracting. So we do it. Now I have an acquisition strategy that's 50 pages long for every procurement I do, and it makes the process longer. And again, these are examples. These aren't things that I know have happened, but I just want to give examples of, we in this room created a procurement system that Ellen Orders characterized as a risk-averse environment, and that it's a chaotic mess. And it was reported, I think, in Signal Magazine. I agree, and I'm this contracting person that may have said, oh, let's keep the process that is because that's all we know, and it makes it hard. I don't accept the premise, right? I think the Section 09 panel has huge promise for the federal government contracting space and acquisition workforce space, if anything else does. But I want to impress on you, we made this system. We collectively, contractors, military, civilians, federal government, Department of Defense, cabinet level agencies, we made this system we operate in. If we are not proud of it, we are not proud of the system that we made. All right? No one in DISA made the system. We just respond to it and follow the orders of those above us to implement the contracting processes. Okay, DISA Inside Industry. So a lot of you have been involved in Reverse Industry Day, I believe through a effort at DHS, I think it was, through acquisition reform initiative they had. They created this concept of Reverse Industry Day. Basically, industry, you come in and tell us what we need to hear from you, whether it be bid, no bid decisions that we don't quite understand, how you cost things out. So we want to have one in DISA. So I told Ms. Brisbane, my vice director at the time, great, don't call it Reverse Industry Day. I don't want Reverse Industry Day. I can pay to go downtown to get that. Make something new. So our title is Inside Industry. So we'll have our first event. It'll be a great event because I've been to one of them before from the Professional Services Council that will talk about some of the bid, no bid decisions. We had this at a recent DoD Procurement conference. Great, great event. So I think that's great. But what I think we need to have is, and I'm not sure who the right players are, and I've asked staff to look into it, is not canned presentations. Bring in a consortium that represents X, whoever X is, commercial satellite, IT services, circuits. Sit on a panel of, pick 4 people, sit on a panel and tell us why, your CLIN structure is stupid because of this, and be very candid. The problem I understand, which is very valid, if you're a contractor, it is awkward at times perhaps to say, I don't like what you're doing because you think somehow that you're not going to get an extra award or somebody could be treated differently. It doesn't occur, but if you think it does, then create a panel of people, name unknown, you don't have a title, you're just called industry that provides SATCOM. Industry provides circuits. Sit on a panel, bring in the DISA workforce and tell them, this is what we don't like. And you can wire brush us, it's all good. But I don't want a reverse industry day from the form of, I'm just borrowing what someone else has. I want to tailor it to what we buy. If you buy circuits, how we buy that, no one else cares or knows on reverse industry day, but we care and we know. All right, so so our first event, I believe, is the first week of December. After that, I want to try to find a program. Give us a year or two to make sure this is going to work right, of what the next step is, because I don't know what it is, but I know I want to have something different, and I want ideas. So if you have ideas of how to do that, send me an email, send someone the staff the email, call up and say, hey, you, type of thing, and let us know how you think that should be done. So if you ever thought the word, if I was king for a day, I would. Well, now you're king and queen for a day. So you tell me how inside industry should work. All right? All right, next chart. That's me, though. Uh-oh. All right. So I'm not an expert on any of these items. So I'm going to do my best to walk through these and probably read words with you. However, I do have the smart people over to my left, to your right, that can help you if you have any questions. So the first item is the OCONUS IT Solutions. It's a European Command Space and Naval Warfare Systems Center C4I SR requirement. Full and open competition to be released this quarter. The names on the bottom are the contracting officer. If you want to call and get information, you can call Karen Kinsel, for example, directly for information. All right, for the next item, one of our customers for about 2 years now, and actually a fantastic customer, is the Army PEO for Command Control Communications Tactical out of Aberdeen Proving Grounds, a phenomenal work partner of the DITCOs. So this is a suite of applications or product lead from Miltech. Suite of applications to be fielded and sustained through the contract vehicle. Draft RFP will come out this quarter, followed by an RFP in the second quarter, and award contemplated for the fourth quarter of FY18. Okay, the CTSS. So CTSS supports the Air Force Squadron Commanders across the CENTCOM AOR. It includes all things related to communications for IUD Air Base. It also supports the Combined Air Operations Center, which many of you see on the TV at night on the news. And also supports AFCENT RARE at Shaw Air Force Base. And so the mission partner is AFCENT. And this is actually a recompete action. All right. Next is a requirement from Department of Defense schools, basically. It's for Tier 1 computer support for their 48 schools in the Pacific Rim, Okinawa, Korea, and Japan. Next is a requirement for DLA, service desk and IT operations support for a SCES Oracle e-business solution. And the TBD is whether or not it'll be a large business or small business set aside. RFP will go out in second quarter, so the market research and source assault part is concluding this quarter to make a decision for what set category it may end up in. So to Sharon's point earlier, if you think this is something that should be in a small business community, tell a friend and have friends discuss with them the capabilities of a subset in the small business realm, if that's possible, to perform. If it's several women-owned businesses can do it, make that known, and maybe it'll be a women-owned set aside. All right. And next are a couple items from the DCMA portfolio. So the source of salt, if I'm not mistaken, the source of salt was issued as under review at DCMA at Fort Lee headquarters now. The first is their collaboration portfolio. It is a electronic document record management system, SharePoint SQL infrastructure, and this is maintaining a compliance suite pro for DCMA. All right, next DCMA effort is their level 1 help desk support. And last is sustainment of their 2 primary data centers. Now, those data centers are folding at some point into the DISA ecosystem, but there is support for those data centers at this point present. And last, DRIN 4. So this is would be the 4th recompete and the 4th contract for the Defense Research and Engineering Network Systems, high-speed, high-capacity network computer system for scientific research out of it's the DoD's S&T and test evaluation communities out of the Pentagon. All right. So I was told I had lots of questions, so we'll get to them and we'll see what other questions we have at the end of the day.
Thank you, Mr. Packard. How does DISA justify the use of LPTA given the 2017 NDAA?
An LPTA question, I can't believe it. So the NDAA 17, while passed, we implement laws from the department when they're promulgated through the Defense FAR Supplement, and this law has not been implemented in the Defense FAR Supplement. For how do we justify it? Well, my reading of the law, which is not that far long ago, is the defense agency or military department is expected to memorialize and explain, not just explain, why LPTA is the choice to award a contract vehicle versus best value trade-off. In the awards that we make and the pre-solicitation work we do, we make that determination every single time. So how do we justify it? We explain, as Congress has asked in the NDA, we explain my 5 years being at DISA of why LPTA we think is the right avenue. It is a shared decision between the contracting staff and the program office. For a best value trade-off, there must be something to trade. And you may or may not be surprised that many times that I see it on my desk of, well, what do you want to trade off? What's important to you? Well, it's best value trade-off. Well, I know, but what's important to you? We'll pay higher. You're paying higher for what? All right, so give a quick example. So if you're looking at someone's personnel or their staffing, and they offer you, well, we have 20 employees and all of them have a master's degree. And that has value, I presume. I have 2 master's degrees. Am I smarter than your 20? If you can't figure out a source selection, that's not a distinguisher to be used. So if you can't find a distinguisher in a program that has value to the Department of Defense and delivery of a product or a service, then you shouldn't be using best value trade-off. That decision every single contracting officer, every single program goes through every single time. And once offered the value, are you able to surveil it and receive it? So if I'm paying $10 million more, I want to know I got the service I was offered and the enhancement for 5 years. And when I don't, and then that option year, well, I want some money back because as a taxpayer, I was offered something I didn't get. So the 20 people that had the master's degrees and I got the college graduate and they did a great job, well, that's fine. But in my personal life, well, I think I need a refund from the store. Well, in this case, do I need a refund from the contractor? I did not get that's what I was offered in the proposal. So, so long story short, we're tasked to make that decision. We do it on every single procurement we have for my 5 years at DISA and my other 20 years in the Army. Those decisions are made and they're recorded and they're there for the file whenever anyone asked in our reviews to see them. I would tell you for Encore 3, we had a peer review by the Department of Defense, independent peer review before we made the award. They had five best practices, lessons learned. Best practice lesson learned number 1, DISA, you picked the right strategy LPTA for Encore 3. Independent review, I wasn't even in the room. The written comment was, out of 5 things, you did the right strategy to award your fishing license for that contract for the 20 contractors for Encore 3. So it's a decision that's made throughout the Department of Defense. Next question, ma'am.
Is DISA looking at adding cost of execution evaluation criteria to solicitations to help prevent getting the C team when industry is driven to low prices via LPTA solicitations?
Yeah, you heard I think Mr. Rivera or Jesse talking about not getting, I think Showers about not getting the C team. Cost of execution. So I'll tell you what, whoever asked the question, send me an email, because I don't know what you want us to evaluate. All right, so when we talked about having inside industry, come explain to me what that is and the people I work for, because I don't quite know what cost of expectation would be and how it becomes a terms and conditions that hold accountable for the government or hold accountable for the contractor. So send me an email, let me know what more it's about. Use at one of the inside industries or some other venue, ask the question, explain to me what you're asking, because I really have not heard the concept in my space. Jim, have you heard it before? Yeah, so let us know what you're talking about, and we'll get you, if you want to send it out or send it in now, we get you an answer through the written Q&A that we'll post on our website. Sir, next question.
Is C5 the primary mechanism DISA envisions using for OTAs?
So for OTAs, to date, we've used DIUX as the program matchmaking office. We've used the Army Contracting Command in New Jersey to award the contract. So under the ACC group, they have the C5 consortium. We do not have a consortium built in DISA. Whether or not we will or we need to, I don't know. One of the things that I talked about internally about 2 weeks ago was exploring further with the ACC community of our ability to use the same C5 consortium. If it's built and it's working well and it's doing good things and it's in the IT space, I'm not sure me creating another consortium does anyone any value, because all that process set it up, well, you could have been writing proposals and white papers for that. So I don't know. My gut feel is I'll try to work out some type of agreement with the ACC in New Jersey to use the C5 consortium, because I think it works. From what I've seen, the delivery we received, it's worked very, very well.
Can you please describe the source selection process used for the GCCS JE acquisition through the C5 OTA?
Okay, so I cannot. Again, those vehicles are awarded out of ACC New Jersey. If you have a specific question, I would encourage you to call the contracting officer, ask him or her the process they use. Would our process be similar? Yes, it would, but I can't answer because we didn't do anything to award it at all. We were not involved. The actual program requirement was developed through a MOA. It was sent up through DIUX to ACT to solicit. So I cannot. A year from now, when we've done a couple, I'll be able to give you a better answer of how we've processed these within the DISA agreements officer.
Last question. Will there be an opportunity for additional contractors to get on the SETI vehicle in the coming year?
So the way I understand SETI, after the award, there'll be an annual review if firms need the on-ramp or off-ramp of either the full and open suite or the small business suite. So when the government makes the determination we need to on-ramp firms, it could be in 1 year, could be in 5, could be never. If it depends on the pool of contractors on the suites to meet the needs of DISA and the department writ large, could be a DoD-wide ordering vehicle. So TBD, annually, there'll be a decision that we made inside of DISA with the contracting officer and the program manager to determine if onboarding or offboarding would occur. What's offboarding? We have 20 contractors, let's say, and of those 20, 5 don't bid for like 3 years. Well, come off the contract and allow something where they'll put in a dormant status and allow another firm that does want to bid and be active to be on-ramped on the contract. And there would be much like we've done now, there'd be a source selection process of what firms to add on to the contract. All right, let me just go back to one question that was asked earlier in a different presentation about, and I think I got the question right, but I'm not sure, about certificates required to work at DISA. So let me just answer it this way. If the PWS requires someone to have a certain level of certification or a certain education level or a certain something as far as certificate, if you don't have the certificate, you will not be awarded the contract. If that was the question, then no, you would not get the contract. So do you need those to work at DISA? Yes.